You do this, sir.
Start.
You want to do the intro?
Yeah.
All right, here we are in the historic Whiting Hotel balcony. I'm going to hand it over here. We're going to start off our Rambling with Rooster. He's got a nice little intro we're going to work on here.
Well, yeah. Howdy. Welcome to this June 26, 2020 episode of Rambling with Rooster and Friends. Doc and Scott and whoever else might show up. You never know what you might hear or what we'll say, because we don't know either. And I'm here at the historic Whiting Hotel with Scott and Ned Pepper, and like I said, we're going to get some other people, perhaps. And tonight's episode, well, I'm going to start with a little story about hay hauling. Something triggered that going to the grocery store today, and maybe we'll get off topic.
Hay hauling.
We will.
I can relate to that.
Yeah.
So can I go? So you gave your. So he given up his name here and everything. So I want to just do my own intro here. Just kind of say hi. Hey, everybody out there here in Pawhuska and everybody who's listening. This is Clarence Benish, one of my good friends here, professor for Pawnee College. We're going to sit here and we're going to do some of this rambling here. And then we might do something afterwards here. Old Doc's got some stories he wants to share too. But we're going to do something different. We're going to do some personal stuff here. I want you to meet this man who portrays Rooster Cogburn and learn about a little bit about him. He's a pretty interesting dude. So I'm going to let him kind of jib-jab here and we'll ramble with the man who is Rooster. Here you go.
Well, thank you. That's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to talk about the AKA, also known as.
That's right.
Dr. B. But I'm wearing a John Wayne shirt. You may not be able to see it. But I made this mistake last night. I wanted to correct it. And as soon as I said it last night, I knew it was wrong. And I guess someone did call me out on it. And I'm glad they did. Because I'm wearing a John Wayne shirt that says, "Courage is being scared to death." I said, being afraid. Well, actually, I was being more gentle about that. And saddling up anyway. I had the story right, but I had the quote wrong. And if I ever do that, now you're hearing Rooster talking now. If I ever do that, you be sure to let me know in the comments or call or whatever. Because as a true academic, I like to be corrected. And, but I want to be Dr. B, who plays Rooster, and talk about how that works. Because it's not the only person I portray, but when you play someone a long time, they have an influence. They influence who you really are. And I heard this first from Kelsey Grammer.
Kelsey Grammer.
He's not one of my favorite actors.
Oh.
He played Frazier. He played Frazier longer than Gunsmoke James Arnett.
He was also the Beast in X-Men, wasn't he? He was.
I don't know.
He was.
No, he was in
But
Paris.
I didn't really like any of his characters. Really. I didn't.
You didn't like him on Cheers?
No. I mean,
Yeah,
he was okay,
Start off as
but I
Frazier.
think all the other characters were so much better. But then he starts to show. But anyway.
He's an intellectual.
Well, not really. I've heard his interview. See, when I was teaching speech and combination / acting, I looked him up because he talked about what I'm going to do tonight. He already did. He's talking about how he portrays. He's not an intellectual, and he said that was very hard when he had to act like one.
Oh, so he wasn't really an
No.
He portrayed an intellectual.
And they asked him this question, and I thought the answer was very clever and true to every actor who's played a part for quite a while. He said, "Has Frazier influenced you in your life?" And he said, "Well, I'd like to think it's the other way around." Well, that made me start thinking, because every actor that plays a part for any amount of time will see that happening to them. But it works both ways. Because when I was teaching kids a little bit about acting, I tell them the number one rule of an actor should be true to the character while being true to yourself. Now, oh, wait a minute now. How can you play a serial killer axe murderer when you're not one? Well, that you first of all, you focus on being that person that you're supposed to portray. But your own feelings about being that way, you should be true to those feelings. Because in every person there's a dark side. And I play some awful good villains, Ned Pepper.
I get you.
I played Jonathan in Arsenic and Old Lace.
Oh,
And
boy.
he killed a bunch of people,
I know that
13 of them,
story. Right.
buried them in the cellar. And then I played Lieutenant Brannigan, another officer, a police officer in, gosh, what was that? Annie. Not Annie, but Guys and Dolls.
Was he a good guy or a bad guy?
Lieutenant Brannigan was a good guy. Yeah, he was going after the mob.
Yeah, I'm down with that.
And then I played several parts in Annie, and I bet you can't guess what one of them was.
Have anything to do with the bald head?
Well, I played Miss Hannigan, the lady that ran those orphans.
You playing?
Her brother.
Oh, I thought he was playing Miss Hannigan.
No, actually, my wife at the time was playing that.
Well, I just had a great imagining of what you would look like as Miss Hannigan playing that.
But you know what his nickname was?
What?
Rooster.
Ah, Rooster.
In fact, I have the T-shirt. I still have the T-shirt. It has Rooster on the back and Annie on the front. So,
Annie and Rooster, Rooster Annie.
but I played that part again in Kentucky, and they gave me 3 bit parts. I played Judge Brannigan, who does the adoption at the very end. I wore my dissertation robe. I played the dog catcher at the beginning.
Oh, no.
And I played one of the senators in the middle.
Okay.
And
in this Annie.
and Annie
So this was, but this was in Kentucky,
in Kentucky.
and you were playing Rooster in Kentucky, the home of fried chicken.
The home of Kentucky Fried Chicken, which is in Hardin, Kentucky. I never went there, but
Are you afraid for your safety when you run around as Rooster?
Well, I wasn't Rooster in Kentucky. I was Rooster in Oklahoma. I played the bit parts.
We had some folks here.
Yeah.
They all they would eat was Rooster. You remember that?
Yeah.
They were talking about their chickens. They raised chickens.
They
They
would-
only eat the roosters. Only.
Yep.
So you got to be careful, Kentucky. Okay, go
Well,
ahead.
I can
Can't lay
relate
eggs.
to that
Don't.
because when we get a box of straight run chickens, 50, they came in a box, 50 or 100.
Yeah, the little boxes.
Yeah.
I remember those.
Straight run.
Yeah, had their wax boxes. You get a whole bunch.
And
of
what
them.
we would do,
Raise your chickens.
if we bought 100,
You want to get your chair over.
when all the roosters got mature, we ate them, except for 1 or 2. And we did the same thing. We never ate it. We never ate a pullet or a hen
No, you got to have
Unless-
the egg layers, man.
unless it was going to retire.
Come on, Bubba.
Oh yeah.
We ate the old hens that quit laying. But Mother would make chicken and noodles out of them because they had a lot more fat.
Heck yeah.
And they weren't good fryers. They even had a commercial about that one time where they're talking about, oh, it's only good for a fry, or you have to boil it. But I never ate a chicken that wasn't good, really, fried, broiled, whatever, barbecued. In fact, you mentioned Kentucky Fried Chicken. They had honey barbecue for a long time, and then they gave it up.
Oh, yeah, I know that honey barbecue is the best.
Oh, it was good. I don't know why they gave it up. Maybe it was too expensive. I don't know.
Hey, I've got some stuff that we sell through Butcher Barbecue. It's called Honey Rub. Oh my gosh, it's the best.
Sounds
Yeah,
good.
butcherbarbecue.com, Oklahoma-based business. Go in there and find the seasoning. It's called Honey Rub. That's just back to that old barbecue, honey barbecue. Oh, it's just butcherbarbecue.com,
Just old school barbecue.
Honey Rub.
That sounds good.
And I'm going to get off the topic a little bit about my acting career because I've got 2 other hay haulers back here. And an incident happened tonight, this late afternoon, at the grocery store that triggered a story that I had to tell the little lady. It was so neat to watch this. Doc and I had this discussion You do something long enough, you get extremely skilled at it. It's just second nature. Well, this lady, I had bought that little bottle of tart cherry juice, and she took the cart of the previous customer, because I didn't have a cart, and without leaving her little checkout stand, a good 30 feet away, she pushed that cart into the stall where all the other carts were stacked, or in line in each other's, pushed in together. But in order to do it just right, she had to bank it off the wall. So she did a little bank. Now the bank shot had to be the perfect angle, because if it was too steep, it would have missed. If it was too shallow, it would have missed. But she had done this so many times, it was like second nature. She pushed that good 30 feet, hit that bank, went clear like somebody had just put it there by hand.
We don't want to play pool with her, do we?
No,
Oh, no. Good shot.
Let's get a pool table and say, I bet we can shark this girl.
And I said, that's pretty good shooting there. And really. And I said, you might make a good hay hauler if you could throw hay that good that distance. And so I had to tell her this story. I said, I once threw a bale of hay that far. Now, I had elevation working for me, gravity. And the barn had a layer of hay there, but there was a hole in the middle. But that hole was not the size of a bale, pilgrims. It was the size of a bale turned 90 degrees. And the boy out there, a good friend of mine, went to school with his whole family, and his grandmother was secretary there for 45 years. He said to me, "What do we do here?" And I said, "Stand back. This is hay hauling trick 357.
357.
I'm going to put a 4-foot bale in a hole that's 2.5 by 2, turned at a 90-degree angle, if you can visualize that. At 30 feet, I'm going to throw it, and it's going to go in that hole." And at first he thought, well, I'm just going to stand it up and put 2 of them in that hole standing up. Well, if I did that, you'd have to repeat that again. But I said, no, I'm going to fill this hole just the way it is. Well, it just so happened, the reason that was 90 degrees is because there was a pole right behind it. I said, stand back. Hay hauling trick number 357 is about to commence. So I swing that bale, and I hit that pole at about 4 feet above that hole, right in the middle of that bale, and it bent at a 90 degree. If I'd thrown it too hard, it would bent too much. If I'd thrown it too soft, it wouldn't have been enough. It bent 90 degrees, slid down into that hole, and you couldn't put your hand between the bale all the way around it. Fit in there perfectly. My young friend was so impressed, and I ain't making this up.
Okay.
I ain't making this up. This actually happened. He got down on his hands and knees, and he said, it's true. It's true. The legend of your hay hauling is true. I've seen it with my own eyes. And anyway, that's one of my favorite hay hauling stories. Now, you guys try to beat that.
All right, I'm going to kind of just talk to that. I really like this story, by the way. So this is very similar to anybody that plays golf. Okay? So here he's talking about this weird 90-degree hole. It's the only thing. It's like this impossible trick shot from,
30 feet at
30
least.
feet away.
30-foot
With
shot.
is this a 20-pound, 50-pound bale?
Oh,
Is
no,
this
I've never hauled
90
anything
pounds.
like that. This is good 65, 70-pound
65,
bale.
now that's a good packed bale here. This thing's going to be heavy. And this is a pretty magnificent shot. So what I get out of this is this. In correlation to golf. So you know that if you make a hole-in-one, it's like a life achievement. People will play golf their entire life and never be able to make a hole-in-one. Just one. Just need one. So I personally, in high school, was playing golf. I don't know why I played on a team, but we did. We were out there playing, having fun. And I teed off. I don't even know what tee this thing was, but I knocked in a hole in one. I was in a class. I was actually in the golf program, and I immediately quit. I left the tournament.
You get one, you're done.
I walked off because I made a hole in one.
I thought you always want another one.
I was done. I didn't really like golf, so I got that hole in one. So I mastered golf. So I was able to quit there and then at like 16. So at this age of him throwing this bail, he could have technically quit bail tossing just with that one trick shot. That's that thing you only one time once you do it, you never have to do it again. But
I had more tricks.
bucking bails is not a leisure
That's experience.
experience, guys. It's hard work. It's a whole nother way of life. I would love for my kids to be able to buck bales and know what that really means to do that kind of work. Because nowadays it's round bales. We were there. We were swathing baling folk, and they turned the round bales. And we just don't buck bales much anymore. There's a few of those going on, but boy, I tell you what, you guys, that's how you really get beefed up here. So I'm gonna give this back here. That was not a comparison more than anything. He could have quit bucking bales then, but it's not a leisure sport.
No way.
Well, I dang near know the history of haul hay in the United States, especially in Oklahoma. But you know, I bet you didn't know this, Scott. Doc, you might know this.
Yes, sir. What?
Before the big round bales, they really did have small round bales. Remember those?
I remember those.
They looked like, when the truck had a load of them, it looked like hair curlers.
Yeah, exactly.
Because they were
That's
only...
so bigger and...
Yeah, they were only this big around.
You could still buck and pick them up, you know.
You could buck and pick them up, but they would roll off the bed.
Yeah, that's the problem.
You
Square
had
would stay, round wouldn't go.
Yeah, but so...
I don't know why they went to round and went back to square, I think.
But, well,
'Cause I don't
actually,
remember
I
them
heard
little round
another...
bales staying around very long, actually.
I heard the story about that too, that the person who invented the smaller round bale did not patent his copyright. And so when they said, well, the only problem with that bale is it's too small. Let's make it bigger and shorter, actually.
When they made the ton bales.
Yeah, make them 500 to 1,200 pounds.
Yes, sir.
Is what a round
I've seen
bale.
bigger than that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's
well,
pushing. That's pushing.
They have
it's
5
just
footers
doing this
and
with the
4
bale.
footers.
Well,
Yeah.
so you know, a round baler, you can change the size of that bale. You can do small bales. You can do how much you compact it. You
On
can,
some of them, you don't have that option.
well, the older stuff, anything new nowadays, yeah.
Yeah.
You absolutely can. We grew up with belt balers and stuff, and you could change the size of that bale, but they were string, a lot of string, and then they went to net bales, but they
And I bet you've never seen this either. And next time you come to the funny farm, I'll take you out there and show you a baler where 2 people had to sit on a chair on both sides and run the wire through it. It looked
Hand
like
feed the wire. I've
hand
seen
feed
those
it,
machines.
yes.
Now, is this
sir.
run by PTO or is this a horse drawn?
well, you
Those
could draw
things
the
are
tractor.
dangerous. You get hung
could-
up in the wire.
But it had its own engine, so you could pull it with horses. And the pickup,
Is
the
this a
engine,
square baler?
it was a square baler.
But you hand fed the wire. I've seen the
You, yeah, the bale's going by, and see now they have the machine that goes in there.
Yeah.
Well, no, you had a rod. You had a rod, and you had your wire there. You pulled it out, and you cut and clipped and tied it, and you were doing that behind this dusty thing. And the platform, you know, today they have a fairly low angle. This was a real steep angle, and it had a motor on it, so you didn't have to have a PTO.
Okay.
You could pull it with horses, but
Yeah.
the darn thing was so big and heavy they used a small tractor to pull it.
Have a PTO to pull
But you had to adjust the speed at the engine, and then get back on the truck or the tractor. You couldn't you couldn't stop it. Now there might have been, I don't know, even had a kill switch for the people.
I'd hope so,
Well,
because you
I
get
got-
tangled up in it, you're going to be hurting. They don't forgive you.
All right, so I want to ask you guys something here. So we're talking about, right now we're talking about bales. We're kind of all over the place, but that's okay. So as a kid, I grew up out in the Oklahoma Panhandle. And a lot of folks, you know, right there, were some of these original settlers and some of the remnants of that. Just up the road, I grew up with some folks, really good folks, and they had cows. We milked cows. We still went and hand milked cows. Went and did that. They actually had a pneumatic.
Been there, done that.
They had a pneumatic piece there, but we also did a lot of other stuff. Now I don't know if you guys remember. Now before I ever bucked a bale, or I bucked bales plenty, but before they bucked bales, they used to do something, and these folks did this, where they cut it out. They cut it straight on the ground. It wasn't chopping it. It just cut it straight, and then we would shock the hay. We put it up in these little teepees, you know what we're talking about? We basically...
That's the old way, thousands of years.
That was it, and we would do that. Now, I'm actually probably one of the last generations, you know, from you guys and everything. My kids will never do that. But we would actually cut that hay, we'd shock it, and we'd turn it in these little teepee things, and then later on we'd go out and we would take those bundles and put them on the trailer. But that was some of that old school stuff that was the last remnants. I mean, I'm in my mid-40s. That stuff just, they don't do it anymore.
Well, Scott, did you ever sled hay? You know what that is?
Oh yeah.
No, explain what sled hay is.
Tell him.
You got to slide it on the trailer.
Sled hay?
You sled it by dragging it, right?
Well, let me
I've
explain.
done a lot, but
Let me explain.
Slips in sand.
This is a on-the-ground platform. It's approximately 6 by 8 feet. Wood frame with a channel in the middle. The first part of it, about 3 feet, was solid, but then the second part, if you can imagine, kind of like my hand here, it had a slit right here in the middle of the back of the sled. It was usually on 2x6s or 2x4s, but the top was sheet metal, not corrugated, but flat sheet metal. And you hook this up to the baler, right behind the baler.
Oh, yeah.
And so you would take the bale and you would stack it on the back end of this.
Oh, it's a sled.
It's a sled. It's like
Okay.
a snow sled, except it was a hay sled.
I know what you're talking about now.
Now you're getting
And
to your
laying up on there somewhere, either on the baler or in the front of the sled, you had a 6-foot, or if you were a big guy like me, even though I was skinny, I was still tall, I had an 8-foot crowbar. Now, crowbar has a pointed end at one end. That's what Uncle Emil threw down in the well.
Uncle Emil.
That's always going.
The other end has a little blade. Well, when you get anywhere from, oh my gosh, we tried to see how much hay we could put on that little square. Usually it was around 8 to 22 if you were crazy. Because what you had to do was drive that crowbar in the ground in that slit. And then hold on for dear life. Because it's moving. And you hold on, so you literally are pushing the hay off the sled by you holding on to that.
Oh yeah, okay.
And if the ground was hard, you had to keep jabbing it.
They
You
didn't
just
like
dragging.
sliding off.
And if you had too much hay, the crowbar would just run you over.
I was gonna say,
Hurt you. It sounds like
So
it's
you had to
dangerous.
come up with the perfect combination. How much hay could you put back
It was
here?
a quick way to get rid of that
If
hay off
you-
the field.
were you
I
a
get it.
12 baler person or 8 bale, or could you put 22 on there and stick that in the ground and
How
hold
good
that?
was a kicker were you? That's it.
Now, this was before the pop-up bale loader was invented.
Okay, now that's that one with the nose.
It has a little chute in the front.
Yeah, and I've run those.
Yeah,
it has,
well,
it has
that's
that
what I'm
that
talking about
that
was-
piece of it down the center, and if you get your foot caught in it, you got to be
Oh,
real
yeah.
careful. Had a chain going there with those nubs that grab that
and it would
bale
put
and
it
pull
up
it
on
down.
a platform,
Yeah, that was fun.
Got a guy
4
driving.
layers high. We say tiers, and
We're kicking that
4
sucker
tiers
back.
high,
I get it.
Yep.
and it would
Little
put
flatbed.
right there.
Hay hauler.
And I've hauled hay by myself using a pop-up bale loader. I'm talking about driving the truck and everything. And this is how I did it, Pilgrim.
I'm gonna think, what?
I was sitting on the bed with my arm in the window. The truck is moving about 5 miles an
Now
hour.
he's by himself, he said.
I'm by myself. I'm doing the whole operation by myself.
You're pulling a flatbed.
I'm No, I got a
No, you got a
I
truck
got
and
a
it's
Bobcat truck, 2-ton truck.
Okay.
Okay. The pop-up loader is hooked onto the side.
Okay. Okay.
I get in the truck. I put it in low gear or granny if there's a super low gear, and sometimes I have to adjust the throttle, maybe put a brick on it or something so it'd have a little gas. And once it was running, I opened the door and get in the back.
It's going by itself now.
Well, it's going by itself, but my arm is long enough in there that I could steer it from the bed, like this, okay?
You had a system.
So I'd line it up to pick up the bale. Once it was lined up, I could stand up, get the bale, stack it, get back down there and do that again. Now I could only do that for 2 tiers because then I was so far high, I was so high above, I couldn't reach through the window anymore. And that's when I would stop and then get in the truck and let them fall on the bed, fall on top of the hay, 5 or 6 until they started falling off. I tried to get 10 on there if I could. But when they started falling off, I'd stop, get out, and stack them, get back in. One time, I got all my records right here, all my hay hauling records. I hauled 422 bales in one afternoon doing that by myself now, because the other people in the field were actually baling the hay, and I was trying to keep up with them.
Kicking and bucking.
And now, we took that one step further with one of my brothers. Now he didn't like all that hay hauling. Not too many people liked hay hauling, but I did.
I had my share of it.
I didn't like it. Didn't like it, but it worked.
So he got a job where he was going to be the baler. Okay. So he moves his baler into the field, his tractor and baler, and we went back and got 2 trucks.
Uh-oh.
And I'm going to load them both. Now, this is an incredible story, but a true one. I would do what I just explained. I'd load it halfway, but instead of finishing it off myself by going 10 bales and stopping and loading, he would stop his baler and top me off.
Oh, well, okay.
It would only take that long because we could load a truck in less than 30 minutes, 20 minutes, if somebody was driving.
That's moving some grass.
That is. I tried to get 100 bales an hour. I tried to average 100 bales an hour. That's picked up and put in the barn and stacked. Loaded, unloaded, 100 bales an hour. Average. So
Working machine.
the reason he brought 2 trucks is because once I filled one truck,
He was ready for the
I'd go load the other one.
Golly.
And then when we had 2 trucks loaded, he'd stop his baler, and we drove 2 trucks to the barn, which maybe, in this one case, it was 7 miles away. But we're taking like 250 bales. One jag, they call it one jag. One jag.
I get it.
He throws those off, I stack them. And then we get back. Now, 2 loads, it took us about an hour and a half to unload those. So I literally handled every single bale, and he only handled them once, throwing them off.
That's the easy part.
And then, but when he got back, he started baling again, and I would load both trucks half full, and he would top me off. And then we did it again. And that's how we hauled an incredible amount of hay with only 2 people, 2 trucks, and a baler. We had more equipment than we had personnel.
I got a little something for you. You got a baling story? I'm going to tell you one about animals. Have you done baling and animals? You run any?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Every one of them.
All right, so
Rattlesnakes, bees, bumblebees.
That is one of the things here. I'll tell you. So we actually talked about these flatbed trailer type pieces pulled behind. They have that motorized piece. Now we had one that it was a full self-propelled
Bale wagon.
Bale wagon.
That's what they call
it.
it.
Had the big nose on it and had a little piece over here you could drive in. And somebody was driving. And that was actually a fun job because you had a little nose on there, and they just go drive into those little bales and then come
Never
right
used
up.
one.
And everybody else
I retired
got to
before
work.
Yeah, you got to buck the bales as the guy driving just drives
Yes.
them up to you. and
But
piles them
we
on you.
changed out.
That's
We
the
changed
ones I
out.
worked
We'd have
on.
guys. We changed out. But
The
you
two
sit
of
there.
them
You had to go.
bucking hay on
You had to
the
stack those bales on there, and sometimes those bales come up with an animal, unfortunately, in them. And in our part of the country, it was rattlesnakes.
Rattlesnake.
Thick with rattlesnakes.
And mad because some of them were injured.
Some of them were injured. Some of them were, some of them weren't. But it was a crazy thing. You bucking these things, and you get kick up, and there's blood all over your leg, and like, what the hell just happened? And it's a snake, or something else. All kinds of stuff.
What kind of varmint, rats?
Well, I tell you, speaking of rats, so I was baling a setup here where we weren't baling. We were going and cleaning out a storage area of bales, and in those storage bale areas, they're the most fantastic places for an animal to hide. Skunks, snakes, chickens to lay eggs, things like that. So we're sitting there cleaning out this big old barn full of hay, square bales. And I'm up on top of the trailer, big old flatbed, and the guys down there they're throwing bales up to me. And they're popping them, you got to try to catch them or drop them on the whatever. As you get higher, you got to get even higher. Well, we were sitting there, we were bailing, or we weren't bailing, we were jumping bales, and this friend of mine, he makes this noise, and he bends over to grab something. I don't know what he's doing. He says something, and he turns around, and he says something to me. I don't even get it, because all I saw was this giant, fluffy, big old thing in his hands. It was just huge. I thought it was a rabbit at first, and I'm thinking, oh, he caught a rabbit. Because his rabbits lie in there. And he goes to throw it at me.
It was a skunk.
That thing was not a skunk. It was not a rabbit. It may have been a chupacabra. I'm not sure. But it was the biggest rat I had ever seen in my life.
A chewed up chupacabra.
That thing had the rat tail. It was huge. He had both hands on it, on both sides of its back. I didn't know rats could get that big, so it could have been a chupacabra. But he threw a baby chupacabra.
Yeah.
He threw that thing at me. It hit my chest. Now, it was a ginormous field rat. And this thing hit my chest and began to run up my chest.
Oh, no, it's still alive.
Oh,
It was still alive. And because he just grabbed it. It was in its nest. And I fell backwards with this rat on my chest. And I went backwards.
I bet you weren't laughing
There wasn't no
then.
more of this rat.
That was a big old rat.
I bet you was dancing across that field, wasn't you?
That's just one of my little fun rat stories or animal stories here with
Story.
bales. So I bet. Do you have one like that?
Not like you guys.
Anything,
nothing like
Oh,
Yeah,
come
I
on now,
bet you
Doc.
got something
This is a
good.
challenge. Everybody got to tell a story. Try to
Everybody
talk.
got to tell a challenge about bucking hay.
Bucking hay.
Bucking
Whatever
hay,
it is.
hauling hay, whatever.
You
Or
never
hay
know
hauling
what-
trips.
I found animals in them like kittens being born.
No.
That's the crazy thing.
That's the mean stuff. Let's not talk about that.
And then they snakes find them. You got to watch because them snakes like to get in there deep in them bales. But I stacked them in the bales in the places, and I can't remember what the worst thing was. The worst thing was sweating in bales of hay. You would lose 10 pounds a day doing that stuff, hauling this hay these guys are talking about. But I don't have too many crazy bales. Only thing is those things would come back and bite me sometimes. After I throw one up, it'd be so heavy I couldn't get it. It'd come back and hit me. I learned how to buck after that. I learned how to get them where my friend needed to get my hay, but only thing I ever found was snakes in the back of hay, maybe an occasional deer, but nothing
Find a deer.
out of the ordinary. You never know what was in the grass.
When you find that deer, would you at least take it home and butcher it or
If
something?
we could, we would.
Yeah, my gosh, we
But
would.
most of the time,
Right.
it done went through the baler, it wasn't.
No.
Not after that.
No.
It wouldn't survive that.
Chopped
No,
up.
it was just a mess.
Yeah.
Well,
all right, here we go.
Well, I want to follow up on this. Now, you guys are talking about finding varmints
Yeah.
in the barn.
No,
Yes.
Right?
Well,
Yes.
we usually those snakes. A lot of them
Yeah.
were bailed up in the bales and stuff.
As it's coming onto the truck.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Because-
what I
That's
saw.
scary.
Well, when they put that hay down, when they cut it, it's on the ground, and everything, all their cover's gone.
Yep.
So that hay row is sitting there, and there's snake stuff get up
Underneath it.
And as that baler's coming, it sucks them up, and it gets them in there, and that's unfortunate, but it's just part of how.
well, that's
how
how
it
Right,
you
works.
got them
right.
in your hay house, and they get in there and.
Well,
and that's
buck
just
of hay,
when they
there's
go
one
into
underneath
into the hay barn. That's what we're talking about, skunks and
Yeah.
animals,
They get in there
chickens.
and
We're
live.
not nothing's bailed up in there. They're just hiding
They're
inside
hiding
these these stacks of bales.
Well, see, the rattlesnakes, you just start looking for blood. After a while, you start looking for blood, and there's something in there. So be careful. If it's coming up the pop-up loader, see, you got plenty of time to examine that, and you got an eye for that. But worse than a rattlesnake is when you bale up hay over a bumblebee nest.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Lord, yeah.
Now, see, now they're inside the bale, and they're also under the bale
You just heard
in the ground. So this is when you hope the rotation has it that you're driving. Because you roll up the windows, and the people in the back have to fend for themselves.
Oh, we bailed off. We jumped.
They bailed. They
We
bailed.
bailed.
Yeah, they
Jumped off those things.
abandoned ship.
And then we had to run to go go get the machine back because we're
You're being
bailing.
chased by, but
Yeah.
a bumblebee will not land on you.
Well, we're talking about ground hornets. It's not a
but the
bumblebee.
won't
I'm
land
talking
on
about
you,
a bumblebee will not land on you as long as you're moving.
But we're talking right. But we're
As long as you're moving. If you run
You're
5
running.
mile an hour, they won't land on you.
As soon as you stop.
As soon as you stop, they'll get you.
okay. So you have to run at least 5 miles an hour.
Yeah.
I ain't gonna make it.
I've tested.
Not very
I ain't gonna
far.
make it.
I ran a motorcycle through a bumblebee nest to test this theory. And I was going 25, 30 miles an hour. I looked back, there they still were.
This,
But they only go about a block. And then they give up.
wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, they're
In fact,
so far away
you know
from
how
their-
long my driveway? It's 100 yards.
Right.
Whenever they get out of their area, you're done.
Yeah,
If
you're-
they run
they'll-
you off that far, they won't keep chasing.
They'll give up on you.
I'll be darned.
But you've got to go at least 5 miles an hour. But
5 miles an hour, how far?
100 yards at
100
least.
yards at least.
Okay,
At
so if
least.
you can run
I'm thinking 5 miles an hour, 100 yards.
That's
can
a
run
brisk,
100
that's a very
miles.
brisk walk.
100 yards and at 5 miles an hour,
I
100
could run
yards.
bees, I could run fast.
get
Now,
away from bees.
if you're going that slow, they'll be a buzzing around you. If you go a little faster, they'll be behind you.
Now, I've jumped in ponds to get away from bees like that.
Well,
It don't
yeah.
matter. There's water, I'm in it.
Well, yeah, they won't go in the water.
Anything to get away from bees.
But yeah, that was much worse than the rattlesnake, because the rattlesnake is in one bale, and you usually have a warning that you look for blood.
Yeah, and it's more likely dead. The bees don't
And
die.
those bees, especially if you're hauling about this time of night, or even we hauled at midnight. In fact, my CB handle was midnight hay hauler.
Midnight
I
hay.
hauled hay.
midnight hay
Yeah,
hauler.
because that was the coolest part of the day.
Hey,
to do
if
that.
you had a full
Best of
moon, you
Perfect.
could do it without
You
lights.
didn't need lights.
You
No
didn't need
acid.
lights,
Nope.
and it sure was a lot cooler.
Yep, I've worked a many nights.
It'd only be 80 degrees instead of 100.
Yep.
Yeah, with no sun burning.
Well, you guys got something we wrap up
Well,
on?
we can wrap it up.
Little subject, or have you have something, little last minute thing you want to
Oh
drop in?
yeah, I've got my little last minute sign off here that I worked on. But this started out me talking about being an actor, and what we're talking about today is being a hay hauler. That's another one of my personas. I retired from that though.
How long did it?
I did it from the
You
age.
ever really retire? I mean,
Well, right.
I mean,
right. It's like
I can still buck a
just
bale.
like a Marine. Once a hay hauler, always
Right,
a hay hauler.
I mean,
Fine.
I'm not afraid of no bale. I mean, it's
I-
fine.
yeah.
When you see one, it's like, oh, I know you. I know how to buck you.
But I started when I was 12 years old.
Shoot that thing.
12 years old, hauling hay by myself
See,
with
12
a
years
pickup. Loading them, throwing them, bucking them on the pickup, getting up there and stacking them. That's why it was conducive for me, since I hauled a lot of times by myself, to be able to throw a bale and throw it into place. So I wouldn't have to walk over there and move it, see?
When you're pro,
And you don't throw with your arms. You throw with your whole body and swinging. You conserve all your energy. It's like a ballet. It really.
I use my knees.
I used to.
hay bale,
Now I was
ballet.
skinny.
I
I
work
was
with my
skinny.
knees.
I was 6'4"
I
and
could
weighed
get it up right.
as little as 145. How much do you weigh?
That's what the shaft is for. Bucking hay.
I didn't weigh 160 until I was a senior in high school. I was 145 pounds. Most of this time I was hauling hay. I had hay that was heavier than me sometimes. I hauled a 125-pound bale. The whole load weighed 125 Average.
Average. Bale.
Dang near my own weight.
I don't know
Biggest
who
bale
packed
I've
them
ever heard
bales,
of.
but they didn't like you, did
They were green. It was green alfalfa. Packed.
Oh.
That's what. That green
Yeah.
alfalfa pack.
See,
And-
90's about as
and-
big as I ever got.
Maybe next time I'll tell about the greatest hay hauling wheelie of all time.
Had too much on the
Hey,
back.
hauling weenies.
And too much on the.
What? Tell me about this wheelie.
You want to hear this story?
Yeah.
He wants to wrap it up. He wants to save it for next episode.
Yeah, let's wrap it up.
Oh, it's a great story.
We'll save that for
The
the next
biggest wheelie in hay hauling history. I guarantee it'll be. And if you challenge that next time you hear this story, you can challenge it, and we'll just figure out who's right and who's wrong on that. But anyway, I'm getting to my second page here where I'm signing off, and it says for me to say, well, this thing get about there. Okay. Oh, well, that about wraps it up for this episode of Rambling with Rooster and Pepper and Scott. Looking forward to. Look for the posting on the Pawhuska Guide page and on the Buffalo Theater Pawnee, Oklahoma page, and share the dickens out of them. And remember, you can watch previous episodes there, too. And be sure to share the dickens out of them. And in the comment section, you can make comments, questions, and like I said earlier, if I make a mistake, and the rare occasion that I misspeak,
Pat him on the back.
you tell me,
He
and I'll
admits
and
his
I'll give you
mistake.
credit for it on the air. So we're looking forward to the next show, and this is Rooster, Pepper, and Scott Trotter signing off.
All right, guys. Thank you.